Hey guys, it's Jim here. Hey, I want to share with you a book that I've recently written. It's called Beyond the Basics. It's unique exercises for the serious guitarist. And I wanted to share a little bit with you today. This is my first video on it, so hopefully you enjoy. I want to give you some basics about the book, so you know, if you do get the book, you'll understand a little bit what I designed it for and why I designed it. And I've been playing guitar for about 20 years. And I always wanted to, when I first started playing, I just wanted to play fast. And then I realized that, you know, I'd listen to myself and I listen to other people, and sometimes just playing fast doesn't necessarily mean it sounds good. And I've heard other players who play really slow and it sounds really good. So I wanted to understand, you know, a lot of times people think it's, you know, the guitar or the amp or whatever else you have that's going to help your sound. And it can affect it, but it's not always that's going to change it. A lot of times it's what we do with our hands. So I put this book together, Beyond the Basics, and I want to give you some exercises today and a little bit about it as we go through it. A couple things is, you know, when we first start learning something, we have in our mind we have these neural pathways, and when we first start learning, they're not really developed, and over time the more we access them, the more developed or stronger they get. Think of it as sort of like a path that eventually traveled enough, it becomes a road. If traveled enough, you know, maybe you put stone down and then you macadam it and it's a highway. Well, that's the same kind of idea in our mind in terms of how we develop those pathways in our mind. The more we practice them, the better we get at them. And but it's not only just practicing them, it's also practicing them correctly. So the premise of this book is really to help you as a guitar player to develop more control over your hands and your fingers to be able to play whatever you want to play. Whether you play blues or jazz or rock or whatever, pop, metal, who cares? This book's going to help you develop more control over your hands. And so a lot of these exercises that I developed, some of them you may have heard before or seen before, but a lot of them I developed because I wanted to learn how to control what I was playing and have more, you know, if I just wanted to play something unique or different, I could learn it quicker because my fingers had been developed and trained in many different ways. If you think of like a football player, they do a lot of exercises in practice that they're not going to really necessarily use on the field per se, but it helps them in their development as a player. So the book is going to really help you develop a lot of your skills in your playing, no matter what style you play. And I'm going to go through a couple exercises with you today. Some of them are exercises that you could potentially use in a song. Some of them are actually taken out of the context of playing. And then some of them are more exercises strictly working on different things, like maybe moving up and down a string, or maybe alternate picking, or just learning how to do an economy style picking so that you can play something a little bit cleaner and smoother and faster. And so that's really what I'm going to go over in this book today. And I want to kind of keep it somewhat short for you so that it doesn't get too long. But I'm going to give you some exercises that you can start working with today. So in that first example, it's really not an exercise that you would use necessarily in a song, but again, it's developing control of your fingers, and you're doing something that's a little bit different than you normally would do in your playing. However, it helps you to develop more control over your fingers, and we're staying in one position as we're doing it. Pretty much moving just back and forth, alternate picking. And if you notice, I was keeping my fingers close to the frets as I was playing. I wasn't flailing them around, and I was also keeping my pick close. A couple things that can help you with that is a lot of times I'll turn my pick down just a little bit, and you can see here as I just turn it down just a little bit, So when I'm playing, I have a little more control because I'm cutting through the string at an angle as opposed to a flat pick. So it's more like... And again, this is just another exercise that you can use just to help you, and you can play it all over the neck. You can, move it up here if you wanted to. And just move it around the neck, and it's, again, an exercise that's going to help you develop more control over your fingers, but start it off at a slower speed. Alright, the next exercise is going to be something you could actually use in a song. I'm going to play it a little bit different than it's in the book, but then I'm going to play it like it is in the book. I want to show you how you can use a metronome to break it down for you, because sometimes a particular tempo might be too fast for us. So I'm going to play it both ways, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that then. Alright, so the first time I'm going to play is 2 beats per note. Now 4. Now if you notice, I didn't flail my fingers around as I'm playing. I tried to play it controlled. The first time I was playing 2 beats, or each beat I would play 2 notes. Then the second time I would play 4. Okay. Now, if you can play the first one, you can't play the second one yet, that's okay. Start with the first one, and then slowly speed it up until you can get to the point where you can slow it back down and you can play 4 notes per. The other way you can practice it is actually alternating between the two. So you would play 2 notes. So the other way to do it is you would actually play 4 notes and then go back to 2 notes. And either way. Now you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of extra string noise. Obviously the more distortion you use in your playing, the more likely you're going to have those other strings that'll start to ring just from the sympathetic motion of your playing the other strings that are going to start to ring. So just make sure you keep your hand on the bridge so that it doesn't start ringing for you. Alright, in this next example, this is going to be something, again, you would probably not use in a song. But it's going to help you with actually skipping strings, and you can use that in any style of music. You can use it in blues, jazz, rock, metal, thrash, whatever. And this is going to be what I call an inside type picking and outside type picking. So we're going to picking down, up, and then down, up again. So these are all I would call it inside picking, and if you read the book, I'll go into more detail about what inside picking is. But we're going to be using the 2nd string, and then we're going to go to the 4th string, and then we're going to go to the 3rd string, and then we'll go to the 5th string. So let me play the example, and then we'll go through it. Okay, so in that example, what I'm doing is basically I'm playing 2 notes per beat, and then I'm going to 4 notes. Again, just like the other exercise, you could play 2 notes per, 4 notes per. Now some of you are probably saying, look, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would I want to play this if it's not something I'm going to use in a song? Well, a couple things. One is you're working on, and I'm always a big proponent of this, you're working on a couple different things at one time. You're working on moving your position or moving up and down the neck. You're also working on very focused picking, meaning you've got to hit the right string at the right time. And it's not a string that's adjacent to the next one. And guess what? It's not something you normally would play in terms of when you're playing a melody. It's different because you're playing a set of strings, then you're switching to these two fingers, and then you're moving up as you do this. So part of what I found is by doing these exercises, you start to gain more control over your fingers, and then they'll do what you want them to do when you're playing. So real quick, as we finish up here, I just wanted to kind of give you the basics, if I can, of the book. If you look into the book, there are a total of 10 weeks. And the way I designed it was you go through each week for that week. So week 1, you go through it every day the same week. The next time, you'll go through week 2. And then if you look inside, you'll also see that I've broken it down by the metronome setting. So at level 1, you're going to start at 60. So I want you to start at a slower pace, even if you think you can play it, and even if you can play it faster, I want you to play it slower. And it gives you some building blocks. It gives you keys to success as you're playing. And slowly go through this book and use it to augment what you're playing. You're not going to use it as the only way to learn how to play guitar. This is really designed to help you develop control over your fingers. It's a totally different book. Think of it as calisthenics for the guitarist, is another way to look at it. So get this book. It's on Amazon.com. You can go to my website, www.musicforhim.org. If you go to Amazon, just search Beyond the Basics, Unique Exercises for the Serious Guitarist, and get yourself a copy. There's a CD in here as well, professionally produced, so make sure you check it out, get your copy today, and thanks again for watching.